So this is mostly new wave punk up here. This is the classic rock or rock. These are all 12 inches. And these are a bunch of stuff from the old radio shows. Like these are shows that we used to play up at KSUA. And I kept the vinyl. You're supposed to throw the vinyl away. Mm-hmm. They say after you air them, like, you know, you're supposed to destroy them.
Yeah.
Like, just kept them. Yeah, why the hell would I want to do? Yeah.
I started at school in the fall of '81, and I graduated from West Valley in '81 and started at the radio station like immediately.
Okay.
As soon as I could. So that was first and foremost. Before I even moved into my dorm room, I applied for a gig at KSUA.
And I moved back up here in '82, and I was taking a class and working part-time up at KUAC, and I saw a flyer where they're looking for DJs, and I'm like, oh, holy cow, it's perfect. And so it was probably late '82, early '83 maybe.
It's 1983.
Just to be clear.
Right, yeah, that's a good call.
I remember the very first time, but you were pretty lit. So I could see, so I'll tell you, the first time I met Jerry was I was living in Bartlett Hall up on campus. I don't know what the format is now. Moore Hall was like a wild party. You could crank your music till all hours, whatever. Bartlett was kind of in the middle. Scarland, in the day, they called it the morgue. And it was, the morgue was just for people that didn't like to have fun. They were just there for the actual college purposes of like this education thing. So it was odd to hear anything coming from Scarland Hall. And I'm walking by there in the main lobby, and I'm hearing just banging from the elevator. And I go over there, and I guess, was it Sarah that lived up there? Sarah Cowgill, who did the show, and him, and then it was Greg Curtis, the other third member of Radios in Motion, the show they did. And they were just like slam dancing around in the elevator, banging into the walls. And the door opened up, and they got like trench coats and this Union Jack shirt, and they're all punked out. And that was the first time I met them. And I remember saying, oh, hey, and we'd kind of met in passing at the radio station, but that's the first time we kind of conversed. And then we'd ran into each other at a couple parties and things, and it just kind of grew from there.
Now, the first time I remember meeting Glenn, it was last week. I think
it was just recently.
Oh, yeah, my memory's
Seems
not good.
like only yesterday.
No, I was on my skateboard coming down College Road, and then you honked or whatever, and I remember because you were going to a party, Bob Brissell's party, and it's like, I had on typical attire at the time. It was hot in the summer in Fairbanks, so of course I had on a jacket with my sleeves rolled up and a skinny tie and a hat, and on a skateboard, because it seemed like the right thing to do at the time. And then Glenn picked me up, and that's when then I went to this house party he was in, and the first picture ever taken of us was that night at that party.
That was my birthday party at a little house there off of, used to be my grandparents' house. Yeah. Over there off in Lomita. Yeah, that's right. And he came by for that little party. That was the first time we really hung out and had a good time.
And it's funny because, and so, God, it's been 35 plus years. It's almost 40?
No, not 40. No. It's been 30, 32.
Okay, Glenn, 82?
82.
It's been about 35 years. Yeah.
33.
Well, it's been a long time.
34.
When we first started, it wasn't an open air radio station.
No, it was carrier current.
They called it carrier current.
It was like cable, and it was chimed into the only places that could pick it up basically were some of the buildings and the dorms. Right. So you would walk through the dorms with your case of records, telling everybody and reminding them as you went down the floors, hey, I'm going to do my show, to make sure to listen. They'd go, okay, knowing that.
It was so funny because in our minds, we thought a lot of people were listening, but in hindsight, probably not so many.
And that's probably for the best when you look back at those first couple of years.
But that's the thing about KSUA, it's a great place to start, because if I go back and listen to the tapes of when I first started doing radio, and if I was a program director of a radio station, I wouldn't hire me. I was that bad. Because everybody, it's about discovering and finding your own voice, and that's why KSUA is perfect. Yeah, when we went open air, the first song, John Terry, I think, played it. It was Steely Dan FM. Steely Dan FM was the first song to be played on open air at KSUA.
Right.
So, once you hit open air, I mean, when did you realize that things were really different, that people were actually listening, that you had this bigger, newer audience?
When we started to get like recognized for something, or the phones, for one.
Yeah.
You know, there was no social media, so the phones would start to ring. It's like, whoa, there's lights on it that work? Wait a minute.
Excuse me, you must have the wrong. No, you meant to call the radio station. I've never got that before.
And then we would start to host a couple of live events, and people would show up, lots of people.
Yeah.
And that's when we knew we kind of got something here.
Part of the reason why it became so successful so quick is because we didn't know that it shouldn't be or couldn't be. You know what I mean? So we were young and cocky.
Hey, let's try this.
Yeah, pretty much. And but then the cool thing was the things that we were getting into and we were getting excited about. We didn't know there were that many other people who were getting excited about that, who were coming up and discovering all this music with us. You know, we're playing songs like by bands you had never heard of, like the Nails, the Del Fuegos, the Droogs, just some really cool.
Bodines.
The Bodines, and these college bands, like, you know, we would play the EP from REM, Carnival of Sorts, which, you know, nobody had heard of them. They were so new. And I remember U2 was just coming around.
Yeah, U2's first couple albums, Boy in October, and playing those albums and deep cuts on those albums. And
so we were listening to what we were getting into, and other people getting into at the same time. And the other thing that was
it's kind of the opposite of the way radio works. Radio usually goes off of what is everybody else, especially top 40 radio, and they're so worried about key demographics. What is everybody else listening to? Because that's what we have to play. And we were the opposite. We were like, well, we don't like that music, but we really like this music. And we were there to entertain ourselves and hope people were along for the ride. And that's pretty much really a synopsis of our show over the years as well.
Right.
We did it to entertain ourselves.
That was pretty much it, because obviously, you know, it's well researched, you know, we had to do all this stuff, and we wanted to turn people on to the music, but when it comes to like the comedy, the lighter stuff, if I can make Glenn laugh across the table, odds are it would make other people laugh. You know, if you yawn, other people yawn. If you laugh, other people laugh. And so
If you fart.
No, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it does with you.
So not that long after we went open air, and people started listening to us, we weren't sure how many people, because again, we didn't know, we didn't really care, we were just doing our own thing. Well, we got our first ratings book, which Wilhite, as a ratings company, you know, they make phone calls, they extrapolate, they figure out what percentage
like
of
Nielsen.
people in town are listening to which radio stations. And KSUA, during that book in 1985, was the most listened to radio station for adults. In other words, 18 and over, more people were listening to KSUA, this campus radio station, than any other station in town, which was followed by the top 40 station.
And then adult contemporary. There was the
Magic.
Kiss or Magic or whatever they were back then.
And KUAC was 6th at the time.
Right, and then there was a couple AM. So there was really only about 8 radio stations total at the time in the market, but still, it was a big deal. And it's pretty much unheard of in college radio.
Yeah, it was a typical radio format. We call it a rock format because at the time we would play some Bruce Springsteen, you know, some AC/DC, some Stones, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, we'd also be playing Suicidal Tendencies, Clash, REM when no one had heard of them, The Police when no one had heard of them.
Right.
You know, we got to play some pretty wild music and turn people on to some pretty twisted stuff. But the only reason they got turned on to that music is because they came to us listening for some of that classic rock, and before they know it, they're getting turned on to new music.
Yeah, we had the shuffle iPod thing going long before iPods were around. You never knew what you were going to hear. Yeah. The eclectic music of college radio, and that's what makes college radio great. That's what KSUA is now. I love being able to turn it on. I'll still hear The Clash, followed by, you know...
They call it oldies now.
You know, Engelbert Humperdinck, and then they'll play some new, EDM. Yeah. So I like not knowing where it's going.
On the promotion side, it was cool because, again, we didn't have any money for the big, other stations were doing these big contest giveaways, they were giving away new cars. And so what we did to combat that, we didn't have the budget for a new car, but what we could do is we could trade out a sound system from Hoyt's Underground Sounds.
Because the car that other station gave away had like an AM little radio. It didn't have a stereo system in it.
Not a decent one.
So
we bought this big, or traded out. We didn't buy anything. We says, hey, we'll give you ads if you give us this big ballsy sound system, and they did. And so then we got, I don't even think we paid for the car.
No, it was a 74 Impala, I think.
It was a piece of crap car.
It was the worst piece of
and
shit.
so what we did is we took house paint and we painted this car. It was gaudy, bright, day glow, and
Orange,
KSUA all over it. We did all these things, but so barely ran.
But it had the best stereo system in all of Fairbanks.
So as opposed to giving away this killer car with a crappy stereo, we gave away a crappy car with a killer stereo, because that's all we could afford to do. And I remember, because the person who got it, they wanted to, this is why I want to paint over. Go, no, you can't paint over it, but it was an eyesore, so everybody knew who it was. And I'll never forget what happened.
Yeah, they ended up, after 2 months, they ended up painting the car, and within a week, the stereo was stolen.
Because nobody would steal the stereo because it was too obvious.
Right.
But they painted
and
the
they
car.
actually came to us.
Yeah.
Oh, my stereo, I said, well, you shouldn't have painted it.
That's it.
I owe everything to KSUA. I mean, it's 30-some years later. We're both in the Alaska Broadcasters Hall of Fame.
Right.
You know, we won Goldies. We've got to meet and see a lot of people. And at the time, I didn't think it would be a career. I mean, up until literally probably 10, 15 years ago, I didn't think it's what I would be doing as a career. And then it finally dawned on me that, hey, I've been doing this a long time. And it never seemed like a career, because we're doing what we loved. And you're real blessed if you can do and make a living out of doing what you love. That's so rare. I'm not getting rich off of it. I'm still not. But I've got a family, I've got a house, I pay my bills, and I live okay. And that's good enough for me. And I owe it all to starting out at KSUA. The very day I started at KSUA, I was a fire science major and was offered a position at the UAF Fire Department. And I had to make a decision that day. And I went into radio. And I haven't regretted it since.
I think I got a lot from KSUA, but I think the town did. I mean, it was, for us, really was the right thing at the right time. And we hit it, it was in a very small window. I mean, it's still relevant today, just relevant in a different kind of way. But at the time, there was a couple of years there, or a year or two, where it seemed like that was the center of what was going on in Fairbanks. That was where everything was revolving around it. And we just happened to kind of be there at the right time.
And it worked out well. And I mean, not only did it give us a career, but I mean, I met my best friend there. You know, I owe my best friend to KSUA Radio. Right. That's pretty cool that we've actually been able to do this. And from there, it turned into doing comedy and doing other things and working with organizations in town. And we're actually almost semi-respected now. Almost.
That's not pushing
in town.
That's not pushing
So we owe that too to KSUA and those fantastic days in the early 80s.
Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thought?